Donald Trump lined his lawyers up. He made them shut up. He said, "You shut up." And then he said to them, if they would make a noise or make a sound, he would say, "Do you know who Perry Mason is? Tell me right now who Perry Mason is. Do you know who Perry Mason is? Are you going to be my Perry Mason? Shut up." So that's what took place during Donald Trump's criminal trial, where Trump was convicted on 34 felony counts. And the lawyers he lined up included Emile Beauvais, who was just appointed to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, who was a top person in Donald Trump's Department of Justice, as well as Todd Blanche, the number 2 at the Department of Justice currently. And Todd Blanche was the individual who met with Ghislaine Maxwell 10 days ago or so, on that Thursday and Friday, 10 hours straight, where Ghislaine Maxwell was given use immunity, called Queen for the Day immunity. And then this past Friday, we learned that Ghislaine Maxwell was transferred from Tallahassee to a minimum security prison called Prison Camp Bryan in Southeast Texas, which is a very sought after prison that you would want to be in. And I think her sex trafficking status would almost never qualify her to be at this new facility to begin with. But this was a deal, apparently behind closed doors, that Todd Blanche and Trump's Department of Justice cut for Ghislaine Maxwell, as Donald Trump is trying to cover up his dark past, as Donald Trump is trying to cover up his connections with Epstein. Of course, we learned on Friday as well that Donald Trump had his FBI redact all of the references of Trump's name, remove Trump's name essentially from the Epstein files. We have exclusive information, though, that I want to share with you. As you know, Michael Wolff has been making some videos here now for the MeidasTouch network. And so I wanted to ask Michael Wolff about his exclusive reporting about the scene that took place before Donald Trump was reelected, unfortunately, where Trump lined up the lawyers, made him shut up, and then marched back and forth as they put their heads down and said, "Tell me who the hell Perry Mason is. You tell me who the hell Perry Mason is, because you sure as hell didn't act like Perry Mason today," when there was a particularly bad day at the criminal trial. So now that we know Donald Trump's cover-up of Epstein, we know the redactions in the Epstein files, we have some exclusive info about Donald Trump calling up Bondi, telling Bondi what needed to be done with the Epstein files, ordering Todd Blanche. And as Michael Wolff explains, Trump has broken these human beings, and they're just pure stooges for him at this point. So let me bring in Michael Wolff for yet another Michael Wolff MeidasTouch exclusive. Let's play it.
Donald Trump has appointed his personal attorneys to the most important and powerful positions in the United States Justice Department. They are his shock troops for doing exactly what he wants to do. Anybody who's ever dealt with attorneys knows that in most instances, they tell you what you can't do before they tell you what you might be able to do. That's entirely been turned on its head in the Trump administration. There's no filter. They do what he wants them to do. No pushback, no consideration. They get orders, they follow them. Pam Bondi, on her own volition, said that she was going to release these Epstein files, and immediately reversed herself as soon as a furious call came from the White House. And by the way, Trump is on the phone with her many times a day, giving her direct and explicit orders. Todd Blanche went down as soon as the Ghislaine Maxwell, the threat of Ghislaine Maxwell became real. On the president's orders, he was sent down. He was sent to Florida to figure out what she knew. Emile Beauvais, who has just been appointed to the appellate court, and in all likelihood will be Trump's first choice to the Supreme Court. Alina Habba in New Jersey, who was rejected as the federal prosecutor, but Trump has has overruled the courts and imposed her on that office. These are not just loyalists. Something else has happened here. Something broken in these people. During his recent courtroom appearances throughout the campaign, there was one moment that he had what he thought was a particularly bad day in court, and usually he thought every day was a bad day in court. And afterwards, he lined up all of his attorneys, just made them line up, and then walked back and forth, and then yelled at them when he thought they were fidgeting. And then he finally said, "I want to ask you something," voice dripping with contempt. "I want to ask you something. Have you ever heard of a man by the name of Perry Mason?" This was not a rhetorical question. He made them each answer. Did they know who Perry Mason was? And then he asked them, "I want you to tell me if you can do what Perry did." And I guess what he meant by that was Perry Mason was a television lawyer and he won every case. It is there were constantly examples of this kind of treatment, a contemptuousness, a cruelty even. Once, in one occasion, Alina Habba lost a motion and they came out of court and he just directed a stream of obscenities at her, essentially saying, not essentially, literally saying, "You are a piece of shit." These are the same people, understand this, who now run the United States justice system. So it is not just that they are loyalists, not just that they are professionals who work for Donald Trump, but I'm going to argue that these are broken people. They understand that if you make a pact, a devil's pact to work with Donald Trump, you don't have an alternative to disagree with him. You are his person. He owns you, and he owns you because of his contempt for you. Stockholm syndrome, I suppose. And this goes kind of even beyond this to create a culture in which there is no other alternative but to bend and break. Now, the Trump legal circle is really run by a man by the name of Boris Epstein. And this is Boris has been in the Trump circle since the 2016 campaign and been learned a greater level of being abject than almost everybody else. I mean, he is the ultimate yes man. I mean, there is in the Boris consciousness no to Donald Trump. No, nothing but just to be pliant, just to actually know precisely what Donald Trump wants to hear and to be able to say it. That's what Boris has learned. And he basically has hired all of these lawyers and basically is always critiquing them to Donald Trump, critiquing them on their level of loyalty. And always coming back to telling them exactly what Donald Trump wants. So this is an ever reinforcing circle of Trump whims, desires, capriciousness, and always, of course, cruelty. This is the world. This is the way Donald Trump governs, and what he's trying to do, what he has done to these lawyers, is effectively not that different from what he has done to most members of his own party. You can extend this to what he is now doing to institutions across government and outside of government. Harvard, Brown, yesterday with its settlement, Columbia. It is government by contempt. He needs to dominate. He needs to force. He needs people to bend to him. And he will do this in a way, and does this in a way. I mean, he can't give up. He just goes on. The discussions throughout the campaign, the discussions in his inner circle about how he treated these lawyers. I mean, it scared everybody. For one person to be able to treat other people like this without that barrier, without that shred of empathy for other people, particularly people who work for you. And it is that everyone is considered a piece, a pawn, disposable. He assumes the worst of everyone and proceeds to treat them that way. And you might think that would mean that people would run from him. And of course, many do, but many don't. And those are the people who now populate the executive branch of the United States government, Donald Trump's government.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.